Hey folks, this is Matthew Zachary, and before we get to the show, I wanted to tell you about another show from Offscript Media called The Cancer Mavericks. It's an 8-part deep dive narrative into the very story of cancer survivorship and the movement that started in the United States 50 years ago. This is not a podcast about the disease of cancer, it's a podcast about the people who made it better for all of us. Please search for The Cancer Mavericks wherever you listen to your podcasts and follow so you don't miss an episode. Thank you.
I'm soon going to be launching the Patients Getting Paid online course that will teach you how to get paid because of your illness, not despite it. Are you interested in doing patient advocacy work, but you don't know where to start? Want to learn about how to find online remote gigs or learn to create your own? I wish somebody would have created this roadmap for me. I spent a lot of time and energy and money figuring it all out. I want you to be able to leapfrog over all that stuff and get to the good stuff, getting paid for sharing your story. In my new course, Patients Getting Paid, I'll be sharing my experience and my resources on how to create an income online that lets me take good care of myself. Want to learn how I did it? Want a list of resources, places to look for online gigs, and templated emails with what to say? It's in there. Want to hear about tons of different ways you can actually build a business while taking better care of yourself? It's in there. Want to be included in a database of chronic illness warriors so your contact info can be shared when opportunities for your disease come my way? Then get on the waiting list for Patients Getting Paid and be the first to know when it launches. Sign up now at patientsgettingpaid.com/list. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FUMS podcast. I appreciate you sharing your precious time with me. Today, I'm talking with a naturopath who also happens to have MS. Great perspective. But before I introduce you to her, I want to remind you that I send out a great email newsletter every Tuesday. I think it's pretty great anyway, called the FUMS 6-Pack that features the top 6 topics in MS from that week. It's full of clickable links to stories, articles, research, all the latest happenings in MS. Get on that email list at FUMSnow.com/getthescoop. I also want to remind you that we have FUMS merch, like coffee mugs, hats, t-shirts, jewelry, face masks, sweatshirts, all the things with FUMS emblazoned on them. So you can share your FUMS spirit with the world. Go to FUMSnow.com/shop and get yours today. Okay, so let's get to our guest. Since being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at age 30, Elizabeth Yarnell has spent the past 20 years studying how to manage autoimmunity naturally as a traditional naturopath. She's worked with hundreds of MS and other autoimmune sufferers in her nationwide clinic using unique, personalized natural therapies to help them slow or even reverse the course of their disease. She's a TEDx speaker, award-winning author whose cookbook has sold more than 60,000 copies, a patented inventor, and has been featured on CBS, NBC, ABC, and PBS, as well as in Good Housekeeping, Health, Martha Stewart Living Radio, and many other outlets. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hi, Kathy. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
I'm excited to have you. And that is an impressive list of accomplishments there and quite the mouthful.
I've been at this a long time.
So let's start right at the beginning, if you don't mind. Could you please share the story of your MS diagnosis?
For me, it all started one night when I went to sleep as usual, my normal, typical bedtime routine. And then I woke the next morning blind in my right eye. Optic neuritis, which probably a lot of listeners are familiar with, very, very common for MS. Mm-hmm. As it turns out, my father is a neurologist, and
that was handy.
It's kind of like the tailor's children going without shoes.
Right.
Not the tailor's, the shoemaker's children going without shoes.
The cobbler.
Right. This is something like that. But so when I told him that I was having trouble seeing, he immediately sent me to an eye doctor, and who immediately sent me into an MRI. So I was diagnosed fairly quickly, really within the span of 24 hours.
Wow, that is quick.
But for me, when I learned about what MS was and what my prognosis was for the future, and again, this was back in 1999. So there were only 3 disease-modifying therapies. They were all injectable. They all
the ABCs, right?
The ABCs all had very low rates of efficacy, like under 20%, and very high rates of side effects. And at that point, 80% of MS patients were expected to be experiencing significant disabilities within 10 years of diagnosis. So here I was on the eve of my 30th birthday and learning that by my 40th birthday, I would probably be in a wheelchair.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you go from that? Well, maybe I'm getting this out of chronological order here, but how did you start your study of naturopathy? And am I using the correct terminology there?
You are naturopathy or naturopathy, either one.
Okay.
Yes, that's what started for me. Before my diagnosis, I wasn't very interested in health. In fact, the entire decade of my 20s, I lived alone and I was a girl on the go, and I either ate fast food or food on the run or leftovers from restaurants. The only staple foods I had kept in my apartment for really that whole decade were Crystal Light, Diet Coke, and gummy bears.
Oh,
so
I'm familiar with that diet. I remember that same diet in my 20s.
I was not interested in health before this. And then once I got my diagnosis, I really became driven to stay out of a wheelchair. And that's when I began studying, well, what could I do to help myself? Because my doctors told me there was nothing I could do to help myself.
Oh, super. I won't even go there. So what exactly is a naturopath?
So a naturopath, really, it means educator. And it just means someone who is experienced or educated in the ways of using nature for healing. It can include anything from diet and food choices to homeopathy, to herbal remedies, to using energy and sound and light for healing. So it encompasses pretty much anything that is not pharmaceutically based or surgically based.
Gotcha.
Naturopaths are not permitted to work with pharmaceuticals or surgical interventions.
So you got this very scary, potentially devastating diagnosis. You had been eating poorly, drinking poorly, and you thought, could be a correlation. Maybe I should straighten up and fly right. And you found this. If you don't mind, please explaining what that takes. What kind of training did you have to go through?
So it wasn't me actually who decided that maybe who actually even had that self-awareness to say, maybe it has something to do with what I've been eating. It was my fiance at the time, who was a competitive athlete. He was actually number 6 in the world as a snowshoer at the time. Wow. And he said, your diet is crap. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, he was into organic and cooking whole foods and all these things. And I wasn't interested or hadn't been interested in any of that.
Right.
So that's when I started studying, and I studied from all sorts of sources from the Mayo Clinic and the ADA, and then expanded out and started taking classes in different aspects of naturopathy. It could be like Reiki healing or Jinshin Jitsu, which are energy modalities of healing. I took a lot of cooking classes because I didn't know how to cook. All sorts of different opportunities. That's all encompassed by naturopathy. And then it wasn't until 2008 that I actually decided to go for my degree. And so I have a degree, I have a doctorate in naturopathy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've heard from a lot of people with MS that see naturopaths. And I wasn't ever really clear what that was, but I know that they're all very, very happy with them. So I knew that, I just knew I was thrilled to be having the opportunity to talk to you and learn a little bit more about what that meant and what the training was and what all was encompassed. So I was asking you this before I pressed record, and then we said, let's save this because this is an important conversation to have. And my question to you was, I'm very unhappy with my primary care, with all of my medical attention or lack thereof here in my local area. So I'm in search, and I was asking you, can I choose a naturopath as a primary care?
So not a naturopath, but you could maybe choose a naturopathic physician, a naturopathic doctor. They are kind of a hybrid of pharmaceutical-based allopathic medicine and naturopathy. So they work with herbs and vitamins and things like that, as well as pharmaceuticals. And some of them may actually take insurance. Traditional naturopaths like myself don't do that. And the insurance companies don't recognize me. So no, nothing I do works with insurance. But
so
I do work with people all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you're located.
Oh, okay. That's huge. So what you were referring to, though, would be an MD, but they would have
an ND.
ND. Okay.
N as in natural.
Gotcha.
ND.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Even though I have a doctorate in naturopathy, I'm not considered an ND because I don't do pharmaceuticals or
the
surgeries.
Pharmaceuticals. Okay. Well, thanks for straightening that out, delineating the difference there. That's helpful. So I'm going to kind of bounce all over the place because I have so many questions for you. I'm just really excited that you're here. Are you vegan, and do you recommend that to your patients?
I am not vegan, and my focus is on designing customized anti-inflammatory diets for people. And I do this, and I use very, very scientific blood testing to show me exactly what's right for each person. And what I find is that being vegan is not right for each person. And so I prefer not to follow any kind of fad trend, like vegan or paleo or keto or anything like that, and really just go on what's right for that person.
So it really is personalized then.
It really is personalized.
Well, nobody knows better how individual something can be than people with MS, right?
Right, because we are all snowflakes.
Yes, we are. So you focus on inflammation and like you said, the customized anti-inflammatory therapies to help people become uninflamed, which I hadn't heard that term before, and stay that way by learning to identify their personal triggers. So what does that look like exactly? Like I come into you with MS, and then what? Take me through the process.
So MS, we know, is an inflammatory disease, right? Because when we say autoimmunity, it means you're having chronic inflammation. That's what autoimmune is. When there is inflammation in the body, it doesn't just happen spontaneously. And in fact, I have a problem with the whole word autoimmune because by definition, that means immune to yourself or allergic to yourself. That's not how we evolved. It's not at all logical for bodies to be allergic to themselves. And so I look for what is triggering those immune processes that are causing the inflammation in the body, and how can we identify those triggers and then avoid them going forward. So just like celiac patients, once they find out that they get that diagnosis of celiac disease, and then they say, oh, I can just avoid gluten and pretty much live a normal life and be okay as long as I don't get exposed to gluten. It's the same thing with MS and any other autoimmune issue. It's just not always gluten. And there's usually many more factors besides just gluten. Like for myself, lettuce is one of my most inflammatory.
Oh, wow. Things. So it really is learning what your individual trigger is, what
exactly
is bothersome to your body, what your body doesn't care for.
Right. What your body thinks is a threat.
Yeah. I wish my body would think that chocolate is a threat and would just shut that shit down. But that's all I want all the time.
No, anyway, but you know what? We can test you and find out if chocolate is indeed a problem or not, or if sugar is a problem or not, or if coffee is a problem or not. So oftentimes people are nervous before they come to me and they say, I don't want to give up my coffee.
Yeah.
And I say to them, well, I don't know if you have to give up coffee. We're going to find out. We're going to test you and see.
And your test, did you say that this is through blood testing?
It is a blood test. There's only one laboratory in the country that does this particular blood test. It's called the MRT, the mediator release test. It is the gold standard in food sensitivity testing. Pretty much all other food sensitivity testing that you might have heard of, they're crap and a waste of your time and money. But this one, and it uses a different way of measuring. So instead of looking for antibody creation, which is what every other food sensitivity test does, whether it's a mail order one or one through your doctor's office, or even through an MS doctor or a rheumatologist or someone like that, all looking for antibody creation, which is an unreliable marker of your hypersensitivity reactions. Because I love talking about this now that we're in the time of COVID and the vaccinations, because we know that when you have a COVID vaccine, it sparks you to create those antibodies to COVID. So you cannot get COVID, right? So that it protects you against COVID. So if we're looking for antibodies for foods and say mango antibody turns up in my test, well, doesn't that mean that I'm now protected from when I eat mango? So those tests are crap. Don't even waste your time.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, this is a bit of an aside, but it just triggered something that I've always wondered. Can I go to like my local lab and request blood work? Could I request that test, for instance?
Yes, in most states you can.
Really?
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
Oh, yeah. But that test is tough in most labs. So there's a little qualifier there. A lot of labs like Quest, for example, or LabCorp, they will only take your blood if they are running the test themselves. And as I said, there's only one laboratory in the country that runs this test. And you need to get the collection kit to collect your blood into. So you're better off by working with what's called a certified LEAP therapist, is a CLT like myself, who is trained in how to interpret the test results from the MRT and implement what's called a LEAP therapeutic diet. LEAP stands for Lifestyle, Eating, and Performance. And it's a dietary therapy that is a 6-week-long therapeutic term that is designed to remove the inflammation from your body as rapidly as possible. And it is super effective.
Wow.
What's up, people? Matthew Zachary here. Let me talk to you about Unraveled, a brand new podcast from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute that gives us hope about the progress of cancer research. And yes, believe it or not, there's actually been a ton of progress. I mean, who doesn't know someone affected by cancer or someone who's donated to cancer research? While that philanthropy is desperately needed, most people who give don't understand what's actually happening in the trenches of cancer research and the impact that has on all of us. It's time to go beyond the headlines with Unraveled. Listen to the stories of doctors, researchers, patients. Learn about the breakthrough science like using genetically engineered T cells to turn a patient's immune system into a cancer-fighting machine. Yes, that really happens. It's not science fiction. These are stories of the people who continue to fight for better research, better cures, and better care for patients, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Follow Unraveled from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Are you tired of wasting time making trips to the grocery store, waiting in checkout lines, and overpaying for groceries every week? We thought so. Luckily, there's a better way. Misfits Market takes the hassle out of grocery shopping by delivering fresh, organic produce and sustainable groceries straight to your home at prices up to 40% less than traditional grocery stores. You'll get access to exclusive weekly savings on peak season organic produce, high-quality meats and seafood, and sustainably sourced pantry staples like snacks, pasta, and grains, plus keto-friendly and gluten-free foods. Do your weekly shopping in just minutes with Misfits Market, all with no service fees, membership fees, or commitments. Become a free member today and get $15 off your first order through September 30th. Just go to www.misfitsmarket.com and use code GROCERY15. That's promo code GROCERY15 for $15 off your first order. Misfits Market is not available in all 50 states. For more info, visit misfitsmarket.com.
Okay, so I come into you and I say, I have MS. And I just want to work with you either exclusively or even, I'm sure, in conjunction with my neurologist and anybody else is going to give me
complementary and
pharmaceuticals.
alternative care, right?
Got it. And you immediately do this test, this blood test, right? Is that the first thing?
No.
Is that the only thing? Okay.
No.
Tell me about it.
Good question, but it is the centerpiece. So
Okay.
I have a three-pronged approach, which is unique among naturopaths and really, I don't know anybody else who uses this approach. So the centerpiece is the MRT test and this LEAP anti-inflammatory dietary therapy that was designed by this lab, Oxford Biotechnologies, and they are based in Florida. I don't touch your blood. I never see your blood. You get your blood drawn local to you, and then that gets mailed off. When the results come back, then we design the anti-inflammatory dietary therapy. But before that, we start you off with a couple of things. One is an extensive review of your digestive tract. We know that immunity, probably 80 to 90% of our immunity is based in our digestive tract. And so we also know that when there's chronic inflammation, it damages that digestive tract.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, I'm going to say 95% of autoimmune sufferers that I have worked with have a history of digestive issues, whether that's chronic constipation or diarrhea or acid reflux or other sorts of chronic digestive issues. And it blows my mind that this isn't part of like a standard MS workup in allopathic medicine because it is so common, but not recognized. So we start with that and we look to see, well, what's going on in your digestive tract? Where's the damage been done? Are you absorbing and assimilating the nutrients from your food? Where are you deficient because of this? And we supplement that to help you achieve complete digestion. And we do that with plant-based digestive enzymes based on the results of this survey that we take of your digestion.
Okay.
So that's
So
the first prong.
Okay.
The second prong is that I believe, and I have found in my practice over the last decade since I have been running my clinic, that the great majority of people who are suffering from autoimmune issues actually have a hidden underlying parasitic infection. And nobody is addressing that and nobody's looking for that, but that is at the baseline cause and probably a lot of why a lot of people tip over into autoimmunity.
Oh my gosh, it sounds science fiction like. So how do you test for that? Like I'm walking around with a huge worm or something. That's where my head goes. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So how do you test for that?
I don't test for that because unfortunately parasitic testing is notorious for false negatives. So I don't want to send you to get a test and have it come back negative only to know that 50-50 chance you probably do have parasites.
Okay. So do you just treat for that? You just assume and treat?
Well, not treat, but I put everyone on a 30-day, a month-long herbal parasite protocol that addresses all of the life cycle stages of the parasite and all of the lunar cycle phases because parasites are lunar, and gets rid of them so that we have a level playing field before we start to change your diet. Because if you go through all the trouble of changing your diet and you don't get any better because there are still parasites there, and parasites will never go away unless you address them directly. It can be really frustrating. And then you can feel like you're on the wrong path. And I want to set you up for success.
Yeah. Wow. That's so, I've just never heard of this before. That's so interesting. Okay. So that's prong number 2. Yes.
And then the third prong is the MRT and the anti-inflammatory dietary therapy.
Okay. And you said that you are nationwide. So I'm saying like as if I'm coming to you, but I don't need to come to you. Is that true?
Well, you would
Is this telehealth?
schedule an appointment with me, and any of our listeners can absolutely do that. I offer everyone a complimentary naturopathic health assessment to see if you're a good candidate for working with me. And anyone can do that by going to bit.ly/EY assessment.
Okay.
So bit.ly/EY assessment. All one word.
Everything is able to be done this way. Nobody has to actually travel to Denver to see you. Okay.
Nobody travels.
Good to know.
I don't even see people who live in Denver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I suppose. Why bother, right? You got technology in your back pocket. How long does it take to start seeing some, results from the changes that you institute in your clients?
Well, it depends. I have a high percentage of people who see results within 2 weeks just from the Parasite protocol before they even start with the anti-inflammatory diet. And then that is some people. And then other people don't feel anything from the Parasite protocol until about 3 months later. But once we get started on the anti-inflammatory diet, within 2 weeks, radical changes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exciting. So how do you define anti-inflammatory foods? Like what makes them anti-inflammatory?
The way our immune system works is we have a subset of white blood cells that are called T cells. You're probably familiar with those, right? Everybody in MS, we know that if you go to any MS doctor, they'll tell you that T cells go rogue in MS and that they are just reacting to yourself and starting off this inflammatory process. But what we can find out if you go through my program, that the T cells are not reacting to unknown reasons or to yourself, they're actually being triggered. And so what we look for is what substances are triggering the T cells. And it could be something you're eating, and it could be something you're putting on your skin, or it could be your shampoo you're using. It could be your perfume you're using. It could be the laundry detergent you're using. It could be a lot of different things. And we explore all of those things within this program. Okay. It's a 4-month program.
Oh, okay. So you mentioned early on that a naturopath can incorporate other modalities like, I think you mentioned Reiki. Do you do other things as well in your program?
So in this program, we're focused really on diet and lifestyle changes. And then we do some with herbals. Obviously, the Parasite protocol is an herbal protocol. And also we look at minerals and vitamins to make sure that you're not deficient. I think the great majority of MS sufferers are deficient in vitamin D. That's not the only one.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference as well. But the truth is, if you're inflamed and you're taking a ton of supplements just doing that, odds are high you're not absorbing those supplements. So you're just making yourself have very expensive pee.
I was just going to say the expensive pee you hear about.
Yes.
So, okay, let's switch gears for a second. You wrote a cookbook called Glorious One Pot Meals. And by the way, I will put a link to this cookbook, and all the links will be in the show notes. I love one pot meals. I mean, like throw it all in there, walk away, and it's an easy cleanup. Who wouldn't love that?
Pull up my book here.
Yeah. There you go. Your tagline is a totally new patented way to cook quick and easy one-pot meals while keeping ingredients intact and full of flavor. What's the new way of cooking?
So this is a method of cooking that had never been written down before. It uses a cast iron Dutch oven, and it's instead of using it for slow cooking over 6 hours or so to make some sort of stew or something like that. This is fast cooking, flash cooking. I call it actually infusion cooking. And you layer the food into your pot in a certain order, and that's what I teach in the cookbook. And then you put it into a 450-degree oven. So super, super high heat.
Yeah.
And it flash cooks in 45 minutes. And when it comes out, you never stir it. Nothing gets stirred. When it comes out, literally, you can lift the food up and plate it all separately. It looks like you use 5 pots and pans.
Well, I thought that the word intact was probably key, right?
It is, yes.
So it comes out intact as opposed to everything falling apart because you've cooked it to death.
Right.
I would imagine that would also keep like vitamins and minerals intact too. Is that correct?
Absolutely true. And in fact, if you were to, obviously I've done a lot of experimenting with this. If you were to pull it out too soon, you'll find that nothing is cooked. So it all cooks really at the same time in kind of the last 5 minutes of the cooking period. And then it just kind of cooks and it's all ready at the same time. So you can throw in fresh and frozen and canned, dry goods and all sorts of different things that I demonstrate in the cookbook. And it all comes out at the same time. You can do pasta or rice or meat or vegetarian or dairy or non-dairy or.
Yeah. Sounds like what then later became an Instapot idea, right? You were ahead of your time.
Yes, it did become similar to an Instapot.
Yeah, but you don't need to buy that. Get yourself a Dutch oven.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you about the patent that you hold. Is that what it is? The patent on this type of cooking?
It's a process patent.
Process. Got it. Brilliant.
My biggest mission in life is to spread the understanding that there is hope for autoimmunity and it is not a death sentence. And here I am 22 years past my diagnosis. I am doing jazzercise. I'm skiing. I am not disabled in the least. Excellent. And you can be too. Anybody can do this. This really is just learning how to work with your body. I call it managing. Because once you have MS or another autoimmune issue, you're always going to have it. There's no cure, I believe.
Right.
You're always going to, once a hypersensitive person, you're always going to be a hypersensitive person. But the secret is, how can you manage your body so that, just like a celiac patient, you don't experience those kinds of issues in a normal life.
Brilliant. And it's worked well for you. Are you on any type of pharmaceutical, any DMT?
I am not. I went off all the pharmaceuticals in 2002 after I had that was my last major MS exacerbation. And at that point, I'm like, this isn't working for me and it's causing terrible, terrible side effects.
Yeah, we all know about that. Well, good for you. Well, gosh, thanks so much. This has been super interesting. I've got an opportunity to ask so many questions that I've been pondering for so long now. I really appreciate it. If people want to learn more about you or your practice or to schedule that free consultation that you talked about, where do they go?
So the best place to find out anything about me is always at my website at elizabethyarnell.com. Okay. And then at the bottom there's a link to book a complimentary naturopathic health assessment and all sorts of other information there. Including my newest community, which is called the Holistic Health and Wellness Collective, which is a place that you can come and learn about all kinds of different holistic alternative therapies that you may never have heard of. I have lots of practitioners in there, and they all have mini trainings that you can access, like healing with laughter or how to do a detox or all sorts of different modalities, healing with lasers.
Wow. Excellent. Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. Okay, so we here in the FUMS Nation speak to this stupid disease as it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. If you would please lead us in our salute to MS on 3. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And you can double dose the fingers in the air as well, which I do. You don't have to, but I like to pull out all the stops. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
FUMS.
Good one. That was a good one. It sounded like you meant it. Well, I appreciate it, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for being here with me today, and all my best to you.
Kathy, thank you so much, and I'm excited to be part of your community now.
Quick shout out to Steve Woodward at podcastingeditor.com for the fantastic work on this podcast, including editing, show notes, and ingenious ideas. If you'd like help with your podcast, whether you're just starting out or an old pro, visit podcastingeditor.com and tell Steve I sent you. Thanks Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.